Coach, the loss of Kelly, how does that affect the way they play as opposed to the way they were playing previously?
Well, I think any time you lose a player of that caliber, it affects your overall game. I think the one thing that happens is usually, initially, there's a greater adjustment, and then after a game or two, they kind of figure out another way to play or use the guys in his place, either in the same role or in a little different role. You know, he's a senior, so that's an added challenge. You know, he's been through a lot of stuff. He's made big shots for him. You know, so they don't necessarily have that stretch big that can cause some problems with your defense.
And of course, he was one of the key guys in the end of the game last year at Phillips.
Yeah, well, he was their key guy in a lot of end of games, you know, for him.
Yeah.
You know, because of his ability to make shots. He went 14 for 14 from the free throw line against us last year. And you know, it's a tough matchup because it's not like he's a big that can just shoot from the perimeter. He rebounds well, he defends well with size, and he can score around the basket as well. That one added aspect of his game, he can put the ball on the floor now too. So he's a tough matchup, and him and Plumlee have a very good feel for each other. You know, I don't know if you saw the game, but you know, when they asked Coach Godfrey about, you know, what's the difference with Kelly out, he said, well, they just moved another All-American in. And that's what they did, you know, and in Jefferson, who's a very talented player in his own right.
Just to bounce back from a tough loss. I mean, obviously, seeing Duke, I guess that helps a little bit, but just mentally getting the team ready to
Yeah, and again, you know, in this league, that's one of the biggest challenges always, you know, because you're going to have some you're going to play well and lose some games and then not play as well, and you know, so you just got to move on to the next game. And you know, obviously it's Duke, so and you're on the road, so it poses an even greater challenge. But you know, you would hope that our guys would go after the next 3 days because all we've talked about is continual improvement, so we got to do that.
Have you heard anything more on Jason and his?
He's out at least 2 or 3 weeks. So one of the reasons I told Moose, let's make that statement so I don't get asked every day about it. You know, he had the MRI. There's no further damage to it, but he re-injured that, and so he won't be available this week at all.
And in conjunction with that, Chris Bolden, how is he adjusting to coming off the bench and maybe being someone that's going to be counted on to score some points?
Well, you know, again, I think that's a big key for us. You know, with those 3 freshmen logging so many minutes, is for each and every one of them to really, you know, continue to improve within the season, which is hard to do, but that's something that we need. You know, you mentioned Jason. Obviously, that hurts us. He's a guy that's proven himself to be able to have some big scoring nights for us in this league, and you know, we need that. He you know, in some big games, he's been a good spark off the bench for us. So, but you know, Chris has to realize that you know, there's a greater urgency and intensity that everything needs to be done at. He's shown flashes, you know, with all freshmen. We just need him to be a little more consistent.
With Chris, is that more on the defensive end that you're talking about, or in terms of intensity?
No, I say sometimes on offense. I don't think he's aggressive as he needs to be on offense. I don't think you know, I think he can be a much more explosive offensive player. And you know, that's, again, that just comes with the nature of being a freshman. You know what I mean? There's a difference between a player from Virginia Tech closing out on you when you have an open shot and a high school player. You know, they're going to get out there a lot faster. So you got to be a little more shot ready. You got to be able to jump a little faster and explode a little more into your shot. And he's getting better at it. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in him. Obviously, we ran the play for him at the end of the game. Got a pretty darn good look. Ran a couple plays for him at the end of the North Carolina State game, and those are things. You know, you talk about guys. You know, sometimes again, it's not what I'd like to talk about, but sometimes you got to go through some tough times and fail sometimes in order to get to where you want to get to.
You also have another guy in Stacy that can come into that type of role, but he's a different type of player than Chris. Do you look at that when you look at your rotation?
But yeah, I mean, Stacy needs to be an energy guy for us. defend extremely well, which he's got to get better at, and rebound the ball, and then finish on the break and make some slashing and aggressive moves to the basket. You know, so that's the role that we need him in.
Have you
From-
been to, sorry, go ahead.
From Saturday's game, what can you take or apply to help this team move forward?
Well, I don't think there's any question. You know, one of our major concerns is we're right now just not a very good transition defensive team. Giving up way too many baskets in the open court. Way too many baskets. In this league, you can't do that. Our margin of error is still small. You know, and so those points are big points. Obviously, the thing I've been echoing all year long is our rebounding. You know, now, in some of those games, we've missed an enormous amount of shots, which is going to skew the rebounding. But we have to rebound the ball better. You know, I thought in the beginning of the year a turnover situation was going to be, you know, a problem. It hasn't been. We've done a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. Now this next couple of games are going to be big because both those teams apply so much pressure. But, you know, it's just, you know, we played a very, very poor 7 minutes there. You know what I mean? And had some good looks at the basket. And the other two losses, let's be honest, are against the two undefeated teams in the league. You know, I told you guys Miami was pretty good. You know, and it's just, you know, we got to keep plugging away. You know, it's an 18-game league schedule. We got to keep getting better. We knew the beginning stretch was a tough one, and we just need to hang tough and hopefully continue to improve. And disappointed on Saturday. There's no question about it. We had a game that was theirs, you know, was ours for the taking, and we didn't finish it.
When you get a lead like that, is there a tendency for some of the younger players maybe to be a little too conservative during that stretch as far as attacking the basket, that type of thing?
Did you think you saw that? Or is that just a general question?
I'll make it a general question.
Did you think you saw it?
A little bit, yeah.
Like from who? Like Marcus or Chris or Robert?
Just about everyone in general, I thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they went to the zone, so it doesn't give you as much opportunity to attack the basket. But I still thought we got offensively, we got some pretty good looks. I thought Robert had a couple open shots there in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. You know, I think, you know, again, that's a new experience for our guys in league play. You know, to be up 11 with 10 minutes to go. You know, and so we just got to do a better job. And coaching staff, myself, coaching staff, everybody's got to do a little better job of finishing those games. You know, we've had, I think right now, 6 games that have gone in the last 6 minutes that could have gone either way, and we're 2 and 4 in those games. You know, as I always say, if you win half of those, you have a great year. So if we were 3 and 3 right now, we'd have an 11 and 4 record, and everybody would probably be pretty happy. But it's the last one that we didn't do it, and so I understand the frustration, because believe me, it doesn't just. It starts, the frustration starts with me, because you're frustrated with a game that you have a chance to win, and you don't do the things you need to do to win it.
Have you been to Cameron before?
No, never.
Camp or anything? Like been by?
No.
No.
I have no. No.
No reason to know about it.
No.
Is it something that, you know, just as a basketball guy, you'd be interested about, or?
You know, I've been very blessed in my 23 years of coaching, coaching a lot of great venues and against great coaches. You know, we've played Duke in the NCAA tournament. We've played at North Carolina. You know, at Florida. You know, Madison Square Garden. So at this point, you know, this ain't my first rodeo. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, obviously, it's one of the most historic basketball venues in the country. But you know, right now, I'm more concerned with our practice here in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So